applause. I almost forgot about the next panel. And this is going to be really great. I'll tell you all from a personal experience that these things really helped shape me in my career. And so I know it's a lot taking it all in, but really be able to listen to some of their experiences and what they've been able to do, because you never know what those nuggets may help you in the future. So let's give them another round of applause.
All right. My name is Emily Kitterman, so I'm serving as the moderator for this panel. And some of y'all have already seen me over at the TechPoint table, and I'm going to be sharing a little bit more later. But to kick us off, we're going to start with kind of going down the line, and each of our three panelists here will introduce themselves and want to anchor this. We've got a group of high school students that are here with us today. So put yourself back in that seat and tell us about what your journey was as part of your introduction through high school and college, and kind of what informed that decision-making that led to what you do today. Susie, we'll start with you.
All right, so I'm Susie Cox. I lead an automation group at Corteva Agriscience. There's a lot of life that has happened before I got into this role. And so, as asked, we're going back to high school in the time machine. I'm from northern Indiana. I'm from Logansport, Indiana, a smaller town. People don't get PhDs in chemistry where I'm from, so I didn't know that was a career opportunity, and I didn't know where that would lead. I knew that I was interested in theater, and I knew that I was interested in being the editor of my yearbook, and I didn't know what to do with that. And then I had a big event happen in my life, and I thought I really wanted to go into the medical field, and I was like, you know what, these are interests, but maybe the medical field is where I want to go. So I went towards pharmacy school, and it was during my time in college that I came to meet a lot of people that influenced me, and I decided to kind of explore, and one of the best things I did was shadow a pharmacist. And I think that was a really, really good experience. I very much respect what they do. I also knew it was not for me. And so that then led me to go on to secondary education, because I thought that I wanted to be a professor, because I loved my professors. And so then that took me that direction. And while I was there and getting my PhD, I realized I actually wanted to go into industry, and I was really open to where that would take me. And then that led me to Corteva Agriscience. And so really my message here is that use this time to explore and be interested in many different things, be curious. And I will take it full circle. I have to say that love of theater, that love of editing, and being in front of people and talking to them and getting to know them, that has served me well. And so these things that we're interested in, we can pull them into our careers in many different ways.
Hi everyone, I'm Katie Murphy. I work as a manufacturing engineer at Arcamed, playing with automation robots and artificial intelligence. My path isn't very traditional either. I grew up in Florida, as you can probably tell by the wicked tan. But growing up in Florida at my specific high school, we were not a high school that necessarily thought about careers or university. So when I graduated with my class of 500, I was one of only 10 that went to college. So I can't say that I was always intending to pursue that. But ultimately, I happened to be really good at sports, and I got a full ride to play at Butler, play sports, and so that's kind of what drove me to college originally. But once I got there, my eyes were kind of opened up to what I might be capable of as a student and as someone who is seeking out a career. So I ended up studying computer science at Butler, and then also biomedical engineering at Purdue University, and getting degrees in both. And ultimately, throughout that course, I found out that the biggest core value I had was I just had a drive to help people. And the best way I found to do that was to combine my love of science and engineering in order to create medical devices that ultimately serves others. And so now that's what I do now. I help deploy and develop robots that will make surgical instruments and implants and the cases and trays that go inside of operating rooms in order to help people get healed and get the tools they need in order to have a better quality of life.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Lilia Sanchez. I I think my career was also not super linear, not traditional. So my family's from Mexico, and I was born and raised in Texas. And I think as a first generation Mexican American, I thought I had my career and my life, everything kind of mapped out and ready to go. And so I was pre-med going into college, but somewhere along the way while I was getting my bachelor's, I realized that that wasn't for me. So I finished my bachelor's, and I actually went to teach high school science, so biology, chemistry, physics. But then I felt kind of like some sort of pool, like I wasn't done growing or I wasn't done learning. So I went back and I did my master's, and I moved away to do my PhD in genetics, and then I moved even further away, came up here to Indiana, away from my family and my friends, to do my postdoc. So I am a postdoctoral fellow here at IBRI doing pediatric cancer research. And I think the main point of my story is I, growing up, would hear I had all of these opportunities that I could be anything I wanted, but I don't know about you guys, but sometimes hearing that would kind of paralyze me. Like, I have so many opportunities, I don't know which one to choose, and I wouldn't move. I would just kind of stay where I was at. But I would like to encourage you guys, as long as you're taking tiny steps forward, the thing that I had in my mind is, as long as I was getting my bills paid, and I wasn't being a burden to my parents, then I'm just gonna keep moving forward. And so even if you think you have your career mapped out, you may not, and you may have some setbacks. I can't tell you how many times I failed, but I would get back up and I would continue moving. So as long as you're taking a step, even if it's finding out that it's something that you don't want to do, just trust yourself and keep taking steps forward.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all. Very robust introductions. I want to kind of pull out to make sure you all kind of take away the key points here, and particularly what Olivia had kind of outlined. So what you're hearing from all three of our panelists here is kind of that impact of the decision-making sort of cascade, and just kind of trusting your instincts, following the thing that you are curious about, and making that next decision and seeing where it leads you, see what you learn from it, both good or bad. These are all kind of sort of outlining that pathway into that future career. A lot is going to be kind of in the way with it, and a lot of it's going to impact your decision making at any given point in time, to help you kind of get to where maybe you expect to be at the end of that road, or as our panelists kind of outline, that it initially wasn't what they expected when they initially set out, and now they're at where they are now. So I want to kind of dig into, for each of you, you shared kind of the journey piece of it. I want to get into kind of more of the specifics. So can you talk about what it is that you do and like what's cool about your job?
All right, so so just to kind of reset, I'm at Corteva Agriscience. I lead an automation group. No one day is the same. And in many ways, I have a very weird job when I talk about it externally. So one of the challenge, we're always coming up with new challenges that we need to figure out. And one of maybe the most fun things is trying to figure out, how do I automate testing on insects? How do I automate testing on plants? How do I take pictures of them? How do I take meaning from them? And in doing so, I'm interacting with entomologists, I'm interacting with people who understand machine learning, I'm interacting with people who understand imaging and photography. And so I'll give you one example, right? If you've ever taken a picture of an insect or a bug, a dead bug picture probably looks a lot like a live bug. So how do we take a picture of that and use automation and machine learning to figure out if it's alive or dead within that test? And so that's been really interesting in a weird way, and that's what I mean when I say my job's a little weird, but it's really fun. And I really enjoy learning about what people are interested in. Keep going.
So I'm Katie Murphy, and again, I'm at Arcamed as a robotics and manufacturing engineer. So one of the most interesting aspects of my job is that I work at a very small company. There's about 80 of us. You'll hear lots of big names like Eli Lilly and IU Health and things like that. But the value from working from a small company means I get to wear a lot of hats. I get to all the way from start to finish see out a project. So for example, I'll start with a little poorly drawn hand drawing of a robot that I want to deploy to automate a machine. And then I will go about and myself do the 3D modeling. And then I will do the manual machining to actually make the components for the robotics out of metal. And then I'll be the one who's drilling the holes in the concrete at the end to mount the robot in and program it. The advantage of working at a small company is just tons of opportunity to do lots of different things, and that's one of the most interesting aspects. Additionally, our company, because it's so small, we don't have a million of the same product. We don't make a million of the same exact thing. We have a ton of variety in the products we make. We have parts that are as big as a jewelry box or as big as a shoe box. And finding one robot that will accommodate all of those different types of use cases has forced me to have to be very creative in addition to being a solid engineer, trying to think about all the different use cases, everything that could go wrong, figuring out the electronics to support it, the pneumatics, and how I'm going to fail along the way, but ultimately create a really robust process that allows us to automate all types of different parts has been a really fun aspect of my job that I wasn't necessarily expecting.
So I am going to continue that trend of every day, I think, is different. So with the team that I work with, so we're looking at developing therapeutics for pediatric cancer. Before you are going to put drugs into any human being, you really want to make sure that it's not going to cause harm to them, and it's going to do what it's supposed to be doing. And so a lot of that kind of behind the scenes is working with animals like mice or rats, or even before that is making sure that this drug is supposed to do what it does just in cells. So my day-to-day really looks like taking care of like little cells in like petri dishes, and I tell people I kind of like sprinkle drugs onto the cells. But that day-to-day looks different. Sometimes I'm in what's called a cell culture room. I mean, it's a specialized room. That's where you do that work and take care of your cells, like they're little pets that will give you good data. But then other times I'm running just biochemical assays on those cells and seeing if they are giving me the data that I need. And then other days I'm just in meetings telling and presenting and showing people what I do. So yeah, I think like all of us, every day just looks a little bit different, which is really frustrating for me when I try to ask people like what their career looked like, but it's just, that's what it is.
No, Lilia, I think that's a great, and it's a good segue into where I'm going to take us next. So you both kind of talked about like the variability. You both have, all three of you have really technical, very amazing kind of roles, but saying that every day looks very different, and kind of that agility that you need to move from day to day. So I want to kind of shift that focus a little bit more. In the work that I do, I really focus on instilling in learners, in those that are preparing to enter into the workforce, on taking a skills-based and a skills-first approach, and really think about it in this kind of a granular level of really developing out those skills. So I want you to kind of put on that skills hat and think about, in a day-to-day, what are some of the skills that you're using. So provide that language for our students here and talk about what that looks like, and a little bit about how did you develop those skills? Was it part of, are you pulling from your education journey, or are you pulling from other lived experiences on some of those skills? And so I'm going to kind of pause just for a quick second as I finish out this thought, and whoever feels like they are ready to jump in with what are some of the skills that you're using every day, and how did you develop those skills, and how do you continue to hone your skills for what's needed on each of those variable days? Really go for it.
Yeah. I think there's a stereotype that scientists are just these lone wolves that just kind of work in a tiny room by themselves, but that's not true at all. I think if you want to be successful as a scientist, and you are probably doing this right now, work on your social skills, work on your communication skills. When you go and you ask your teacher for help with a question that you didn't understand, when you go and to your friend, if there was something that you didn't understand, that is a skill that you are gonna learn and you're gonna use in your career. I'm always bothering the other scientists because there's always something that I don't understand. So I think that social skill and communication skill, work on your PowerPoint skills. being able to present a really good PowerPoint presentation too. So those are some practical skills I think hopefully you are already working on, but keep working on them.
I think the skill that has suited me most in my career is just natural curiosity, wondering why something is the way it is, how it works, taking it apart, a lot of times breaking it, and then trying to figure out how to put it back together. I remember being a kid and building and selling endless amounts of Lego sets, taking apart electric toothbrushes, lawn mowers, everything like that, starting to tinker and take those real life experiences. Learning in school is fantastic, but I have to say that most of the things I use now has come from industry experience or actually doing the work myself. Absolutely. Do I need to know Pythagorean theorem for my job? Yeah, sometimes, but it's the application that makes it most relevant. And so the ability to be naturally curious, challenge everything, and also not fear failure. Like I said, I took some lawnmowers apart and they are still in pieces. They are not back together. But wanting success more than I fear failure has driven me to be able to start to build some of those skills that will ultimately suit you well in your career.
So I 100% agree with both Lily and Katie, and I think the only thing that I'll add, because I would say those things as well, is listen to learn, don't listen to respond. And take a moment to just take in what someone's saying. If your gut response is, well, what, stop, right? Hold back, let them finish their thought. Listen to learn, not listening to respond, right? And I think that's a very powerful thing. And it takes so much patience to learn that. I think I'm still learning that, right? Of course, you asked the question, Emily, and I'm sitting here going, oh, how do I respond, right? So that would be my only thing to add.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you all so much. I want to kind of point out, if you all didn't catch it, kind of the things that they really amplified were those durable skills. They weren't necessarily talking about what they necessarily got their degree in, but what really shows up in their day-to-day work are those durable skills, the ability to communicate, asking the right question, that natural curiosity and that patience and willingness to listen are the things that are really going to serve and can be kind of frustrating sometimes when you have to think about that is something that you develop through those experiences. So now I want to kind of shift us into challenges. Our career journeys tend to be very winding roads rife with, you've mentioned a couple times, having to fail and learn from those failures. So I want you to take a second here for each of our panelists to sort of reflect on what maybe was a major or even a pivotal career challenge in your journey and sort of talk through what that experience was like and how you handled it.
So I would say probably one of the hardest moments I had was when I made the decision to not go towards academia. It was something I was incredibly passionate about, and I had a personal life experience that made me need to pivot. And what I often tell people when they're trying to make a decision in their career, what job or what to do, is I say, pick your North Star. And how I worked through this challenge was my North Star was location-based. And I said, I'm going to be really open to opportunities as long as I can be in this mile radius, so to speak. If I hadn't done that, I wouldn't be in this job. I wouldn't have considered this job. This has been a really, really impactful thing. I've had so many opportunities, and I'm really glad I opened myself up to that. But I had to take a moment, and I had to sit with myself, and I think in a way I mourned that, right? I mourned that potential future, but then I moved on. And that was somebody else at this point, right? And so I think for me, that challenge was giving up on something I thought I really, really wanted.
I I think the biggest challenge I've repeatedly faced is just being a woman in a male-dominated field, and bigger than that, just kind of defying expectations that people set for you. We all look a certain way, we all are from different places, and there are going to be expectations that accompany that no matter where you go. So for me, it was being a woman in a male-dominated field, being particularly young, being able to meet that with grace and respect and self-confidence in order to prove to people that I was on their side, looking to bolster and approach the same goals they were, has ultimately been what's been most helpful handling challenges such as that.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be a little vulnerable when I say my biggest challenge is something that I still struggle with, and that's imposter syndrome. It's that feeling of, I don't belong here, I'm a fraud, they're gonna figure out that I don't know anything. But I will say, there are days when it's really bad, and one of the things, you talked about North Star, one of the things that what I would say is like my anchor, or maybe my North Star, is my family. And even though they don't understand everything that I do, like scientifically or whatnot, what really helps is that they support me and they love me. So if you have like community around you, friends, family, that will really help, especially when you are in a field, maybe like a male-dominated field. Just when you feel like you're out of your, you've bit off too much. It's just too much. It's overwhelming. I don't belong here. For me, having that anchor in my family has been really helpful.
Great, thank you all. I believe timing where we are at is now the chance for you all to ask any questions that you may have. So you've been very patient as far as sitting here listening to two back-to-back panels. As kind of these comments have come out, what are some of the questions that you all have that you want to address with either of our panelists?
I have a question for Susie, and you said you've tried a lot of stuff. So what really pushed you to actually like do it? Like just get it over with?
So I just to clarify, are you saying just to do like going into science, or to move into a different career?
To move into a different career.
Yeah. So I think, Lily, you mentioned family being a core value. It's very much a core value for me. You can have your North Star, and then you can have your top three, right? And so I kind of ranked those top three, and something that was really important to me was to be able to do research. And so I was like, hey, you know what? If I can be close to family, as long as I can do my research, I'm really happy. And I was fortunate enough to find that opportunity. And then I told myself, the thing that really pushed me, right, is nothing's really ever done. There's no last big deal. There's no the end, right? And if you sit with that and you go, we're going to give this 6 months to a year, and if I hate it, I can pivot. It'll be okay. And so reminding yourself that like this is not the last decision we're making, I think that was a deal I made with myself. I said, okay, we're doing this now. And if for whatever reason it doesn't go well, then I'll look at other opportunities. And that's a great question, because you know it's hard to give up on something you think is your dream. And what I learned was sometimes our dreams prevent us from seeing the bigger picture. And I'm really, really glad I made that leap. So if you're itching to try something new, I encourage you to do it.
Hello, I have a question for all three of our panelists. Now, you've all discussed your backgrounds and how you got into your individual fields, and your paths have not been easy. So I want to ask, do you have any regrets whatsoever?
No. It hurt. Some of the choices hurt in the moment, right? But once again, it goes back to my comment about like, I couldn't see the bigger picture. So I can't regret it. I can't sit on regrets. I'm all about moving forward and looking to the future. What's done is done. It happened, and I learned from it.
I think my biggest regret is that I didn't do more in high school. I was kind of slacking off, and I just happened into this career because I happen to be good at sports. But really, the intentionality you all are showing by being here today, caring about your careers and what your intentions are post-high school, you're already doing way more than me. And so if I could go back and do it all again, I'd want to be students who are in your shoes right now, who are trying to learn about what's out there, what they're capable of, and what actually interests them and passions them, as opposed to just kind of happening upon it and getting very lucky.
Yeah, I think I'm going to answer in a similar vein. I think my regret is not failing faster. As long as you're not like blowing up the lab or whatever, then just do it. Like, resources are still going to be there. Your boss is not going to fire you. Don't be paralyzed by fear. So failing faster, my regret.
This is a question for all of the panelists. How did you decide what college you want to go to? Like, what are some good standards, I guess?
So I really feel for all of you because you're making big decisions now. And I remember being in that space and thinking like, wow, I got to choose my whole future. I am from a family from Indiana. I ended up getting a scholarship that gave me a really good ride to a school only in Indiana. So that narrowed my search a lot. And then also, at the time, I thought I wanted to be a pharmacist, so I targeted pharmacy schools. And that took me to either Butler University or Purdue, and I chose Butler. And that had to do with I enjoyed my visit a lot. So if you get the chance, visit the college, make sure it's a space you feel comfortable in. And also make sure, you know, there's merits to big schools and small schools, right? So I was fortunate enough to have a scholarship that kind of led me specifically to those schools. But I'd say there's no wrong answer if it feels right to you.
The phrase I always use is like the broken hand rule. So if I was in class and the first day of class I broke my hand and I couldn't study as hard as I wanted, would I still enjoy the school for what it is? Would I enjoy the cultural aspects? Every single university and college you're going to explore is going to have rich academia that's ultimately going to bolster you well towards your career. But there are also other aspects. Do I like where the school is located? For me, did I like having to fly home? Did I like that it was a smaller university or a bigger university? Did I like that there were or weren't sporting events on the weekends? Things like that. You're always going to get a fantastic education because what you put into it is what you'll get out of it, but also making sure that that's a place where it's going to bolster not just the academic parts of yourself, but the cultural and societal aspects of yourself that are just as important in your career.
You guys answer. I've got nothing to add. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, can we give a big round of applause to our three panelists? And students, thank you for asking very thoughtful questions. I hope you continue to kind of take this reflective thread throughout the rest of the afternoon as you go into your demos. You're going to be inundated with a lot of information, so make sure that when you leave today that you recall back to a lot of the resources that are being shared and start some of that exploration on your own. Thank you all.